you doing this fine day? Hope you're enjoying your week. Welcome to another survival challenge, in particular, an Avatar survival challenge. Avatar, as in The Last Airbender, not the Fern Gully Blue Cat People movie. That is an important distinction. So for anyone who hasn't seen my videos before, the concept for this video is very simple. We're taking 4 heroic characters from other universes that overthrew an evil empire or assisted in overthrowing an evil empire and chuck them on over into the Avatar universe to see if they can overthrow this evil empire, which is the Fire Nation. We don't just take these characters' powers and abilities into consideration, but also their tactics, their character as a whole, how they might respond to this world and how it might respond to them. All of this is going to play a major factor in how these characters might deal when put in here, and we're going to go over all of it. Lastly, don't forget that we stream every Saturday evening at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, where we have live debates between different fans of the channel, and even I get in there too, and I debate people as well. It usually lasts between 5 and 8 hours. We're going all the way until like 3, 4 in the morning sometimes, just debating and talking about different things. And if the debate is really interesting, I'll cut it all together and I'll put it out as a video on the channel. So if you're interested in that, go down to the pinned comment. There's going to be a link to the Discord where these debates take place and where we stream them live. Even if you're not interested in the debates though, you can still come on down and join the Discord. There's about 1,200 people in there. It is a free speech Discord. I don't care what you say, what your opinions are. It's fine. Everybody is free to say what they want and talk how they want. You're not going to be kicked out for saying the wrong thing. The only problem that I have with is bullying. Don't adamantly go out of your way to be a dick to people and you'll be fine. And if you enjoy the video, make sure to like, subscribe, comment, share, and join the membership. Remember, you join the membership, you get videos early. But I'm wasting up your time. Let's get started. First up is to find out what our heroes will have to overcome in today's particular challenge. Luckily, in terms of powers and abilities, it's all relatively simple. And most people, even those who haven't seen the series, know more or less what the Fire Nation is capable of. It's kind of in the name. You have an entire army of martial arts masters who can create and control fire. Yeah, I know it doesn't seem like all that much, but they are deceptively powerful. Like every single character, even non-Bender's human bullshit weak characters in the series are capable of being thrown through stone walls, chucked through buildings, and having small buildings collapse on top of them, and blasted hard enough into the side of giant armored vehicles, hard enough to dent the vehicle, and they're fine. They walk it off pretty easily. Characters in the series are constantly shown having large boulders chucked at them, hit them, the boulders shatter into pieces, they go flying into a wall, and they're fine. They just get up and everything's cool. Their level of heat resistance is off the freaking charts as they are constantly hit with fire attacks, hitting them in the face, chest, back, wherever, and they very rarely actually get burned from it. In fact, firebenders are often shown fighting in extremely close proximity to massive amounts of fire that really should make it very hard for them to breathe, and they should be getting 3rd and 2nd degree burns just from the proximity to the fire they're fighting around, but they seem completely unaffected by it. Outside of just physical abilities, they're also vastly more technologically advanced than anybody else in the entire series because they stole that knowledge from a giant owl that lives in an underground library. Sure. And this stolen technology takes the form of mostly engineered vehicles. Like they made a giant drill that can bore through the wall of Ba Sing Se, which was this massive wall that nobody could get through because flights didn't exist in this universe yet. And they've also been able to make just straight up tanks. Tanks, by the way, that if you flip on its back can still drive forward, which is some shit we don't even have. I mean, Avatar is a world where 99.9% of the universe's most advanced technology is a fucking carriage being pulled by an animal. And then these dudes have tanks. Tanks that you can flip over and then just keep driving anyway. And then eventually later on in the series, they get war balloons and they actually have the ability to fly. And that just completely changes the whole game because once you're the only army that has flight, you're basically beating any army that doesn't have flights. I mean, that's just obvious. But that's not even the thing that makes the Fire Nation so dangerous in open warfare because they conquered the vast majority of the planet before they ever got any flying vehicles. No, the thing that actually makes them such a threat is that they are a completely militarized society unlike any of the other nations. Despite the Fire Nation being completely outnumbered in their war with the rest of the world, they have taken over the vast majority of the planet because they have an organized military and they are far better at tactics and open warfare than anyone else is by a vast margin. All of the greatest minds when it comes to warfare, all of the best tacticians, weapons, all the best strategies. It's all owned by the Fire Nation. In fact, Azula, who is the best tactician in the entire show that we see, is said to have gotten that way because since she was a child, has studied the history and tactics of Fire Nation warfare. She is a perfect example of what a Fire Nation tactician looks like when they have studied those tactics and applied them correctly. And if you look back into the entire history of the show, the Fire Nation wins almost every conflict that they've ever been involved in. There's only like 2 or 3 exceptions where that's not the case. They did fail at taking over the Northern Water Tribe, but that was only due to the interference of the Moon Spirit, who became a giant kaiju and wiped out their entire fleet. And the final battle at the end of the series. Outside of those 2 instances, Fire Nation really doesn't lose. Yes, it's true that Aang often clowns on the Fire Nation constantly, but that's not open warfare. That's just a small group of Fire Nation soldiers trying to take on the Avatar. I'm talking about actual open war. Under the supervision of the Avatar and the best military minds that the Earth Kingdom and Water Tribes had, they lost the battle on the Day of Black Sun and lost Ba Sing Se, the last and most powerful city that was actually fighting well against the Fire Nation. Now, all of those are serious challenges that the heroes are gonna have to overcome, but that's nothing that Aang and Team Avatar didn't also have to deal with. There's actually challenges that our heroes are gonna have to deal with in this challenge that Aang didn't have to deal with, and that's mostly due to the way that the world is set up. In Avatar, Aang is the Avatar. Everyone knows the moment Aang shows up that he is supposed to bring balance to the world. It's his role within the world, and everyone understands that. This means that the moment Aang shows up, pretty much everyone is on board with who he is and what he has to do and want to assist him in his goal. If Aang shows up on the front lines of a war and says, "I'm the Avatar," everyone automatically puts him in the war room with everybody else who are discussing tactics and allow him to have a major say. Aang's words matter in the Avatar universe. Everything he does matters. He is the most important person on the planet, and he doesn't have to earn that. He was just born with that privilege. None of the heroes of this story are the Avatar. None of them are going to have that privilege. When these characters show up, if they want to go after the Fire Lord, they're going to have way more things hindering them than was ever hindering Aang, because no one's going to have any reason to listen to anything they have to say. What, they have some cool rare powers that no one else in the universe has seen before? That's cool, I guess, but they're still not the Avatar. And it's not like there aren't other characters with cool rare powers that no one's seen before. Remember the dude with the fucking laser eye shit? That guy, Sparky Boom Man? That's a very rare power. When people see that, they're just like, oh, that's weird. They don't suddenly hail them as gods of the universe. So there's really no reason to expect that for the heroes here. Basically what I'm saying is when these heroes arrive to the world, they're kind of on their own. If they want the Earth Kingdom or the Water Tribe or any of these other powerful forces within the universe to assist them and accept their assistance, they're gonna have to earn that respect through deeds, unlike Aang, who really didn't have to do that. This will absolutely, without a doubt, hold them back in ways that it didn't hold back Aang when it comes to stopping the Fire Nation. And also remember, taking out the Fire Nation is on a pretty serious timer, because Aang only had 3 months to take them out before they wiped out Ba Sing Se and the Earth Kingdom. So this challenge isn't only about overthrowing Ozai and ending the war, it's about doing it in a very, very short timeline without anyone really caring to help you do it. So, can our heroes do it? Let's fucking find out. First up on the chopping block, we have Liu Kang from Mortal Kombat. And you guys know what that means. I get to shit on Mortal Kombat. Oh, happy days. Okay, so let's just get this out of the way immediately, because I know people are gonna bring it up. Fire God Liu Kang created a black hole. In order to create a black hole that big, you have to have solar system levels of power. So Fire God Liu Kang at bare minimum is solar system level, and he can blow up solar systems. That's the argument I constantly see, and it is bullshit. Okay, he's solar system. Sure. I mean, look right here at this solar system levels of power. Or this one, you know? I guess this Goro that beat his ass. I guess this Goro must have been like universal, right? Oh, wait, I know what you're talking about. You're talking about when the 2 most powerful sorcerers in the entire universe, each of which individually are shown in this game able to take on Fire God Liu Kang in a 1v1 fight, both come together, put their power together to create massive universal levels of power that they just fire at Fire God Liu Kang. And oh no, actually, it is a basic bitch fireball that any firebender can make and shoot at someone by themselves. And Fire God Liu Kang, the god of fire, has to leap out of the way of the fireball as to not be hurt by the fireball. Fire God Liu Kang. What are you guys talking about? Look, let me explain to you how this works, okay? Look, I have heard the argument that the only reason why Fire God Liu Kang is so weak is because of bad writing. And if you take the bad writing out, he's actually super strong. But the thing that y'all seem to be forgetting is that the writing is what gives the character their power level. You don't throw out the whole story and the power that he's shown to have in it because of a non-canon fatality. You throw out the non-canon fatality because it conflicts with the story. You guys are getting this shit backwards. Look, I'll meet you guys halfway. Let's say that Fire God Liu Kang can create black holes like this, even in the story, despite the fact that he doesn't. It's only in a non-canon fatality, but let's just say that that is something he's capable of, even if he doesn't actually use it. So he should still have that level of power. Okay, fine. Obviously, the writers of the story don't consider that black hole to be as powerful as you do, or as theoretical science does. Clearly, it doesn't matter. Even if he can make that black hole, he could still be punched to death by Goro or any other character on the roster. Even if you actually look at how the black hole works in the fatality, it doesn't act like a black hole. Look at how it sucks the dude up. It like tears little pieces of him off little by little. This is a black hole. The suction should be so powerful, it should be immediate. You guys always say the writers don't know what the hell they're doing and they're just really bad at writing, but then y'all give this one thing so much credit. Like, this is what all the writing should be based around, is this one feat, and the whole universe should scale to this one moment, and we should ignore just everything else outside of it, instead of just saying, well, this one moment is obviously something that was written that didn't take into account how powerful this thing actually should be. In the Mortal Kombat universe, this black hole is not as strong as a black hole should be. That is what is going on here. Not that the entire universe are solar system busters, because a black hole-like thing appeared once. It's so ridiculous. Now, having said that, how will Liu Kang do in the Avatar universe? He's gonna do piss fucking poor for a couple of reasons. Not necessarily because his fighting skills suck, which they do. At one point, Liu Kang was actually a really great fighter and no one could beat him, but NetherRealm has shit on him so much to where basically anyone can beat him at any time. His fighting skills are not that good anymore, but also his power over fire isn't even that good. Like, the average firebender's better than him. They have a higher resistance to fire than he does. They have actual control over fire after it's shot from them. Liu Kang can't control fire. If he could, that means the big ass fireball that was shot at him in that one scene I showed you, he would have been able to control it out of the way, force himself through it, doesn't matter, you can do all kinds of things. But he doesn't. He has to completely leap out of the way, because not only is he susceptible to being hurt by it, but he can't actually control it in any way. In Avatar, every single time a firebender throws a punch, fire comes out. Liu Kang just has regular punches, and then he has to do this weird little stance thing that shoots out a very unimpressive fire blast. No, in the Avatar universe, he's just gonna be a shitty firebender. And as far as the universe as a whole, and how it reacts to him, everyone's gonna fucking hate him. He's gonna want to go after the Fire Nation for sure, and you know, that's a good thing. But the Earth Kingdom and Water Tribe are just going to see him as Fire Nation and are going to despise him, and likely a lot of them are going to attack him on sight and want to kill him out of hatred. He's gonna basically become like Aang's firebending teacher in the first season. Remember, that guy betrayed the Fire Nation and had to go into hiding because all of society rejected him because he wasn't accepted by any of the non-Fire Nation, but Fire Nation was also hunting him? That's basically what Liu Kang's gonna have to do, except Liu Kang is way worse at firebending. And because of the fact that all of his abilities are directly tied to chi, he's going to be affected by all the same anti-chi abilities that a lot of the characters have. Like, for instance, chi blocking or bloodbending. He's going to be susceptible to all of that stuff. And lastly, because his powers don't work the same way as the firebenders do, despite it still being chi, when they end up having that big ass eclipse at the end of the series where all the firebenders get a massive power up, he's not going to get that power up. Whatever the sun does has absolutely no effect on his abilities. So he's going to literally be the only firebender, with quotations, in the universe without a power up. He's literally just a shitty firebender. I mean, honestly, do you really see Liu Kang beating Azula in a fight? If so, please tell me how. We see Liu Kang fighting his way up that fucking tower trying to get to the top, and he struggles against literally everyone he fights against. You guys act like he could just fly to the top of the tower and immediately kill every single person there, but he clearly doesn't do that. This isn't a weakened version of the character. And you can't even argue that the only reason why this is the case is because all the other Mortal Kombat characters are just as strong too. Because if you look back to Mortal Kombat 11, all of the strongest heroes have to flee from a tank. Johnny Cage, Sonya Blade, Cassie Cage, and a bunch of other characters can't fight against a tank, and they all run away as it chases them. They're less powerful than a tank. These characters are shown fighting on par with Liu Kang. How is Liu Kang's solar system? Please explain it to me. I am confused. So we got Talion from the Middle-earth series. And I know what you're saying, I know what you're thinking, you're rolling your eyes. What the hell is Talion doing so low on the list? He's so powerful, he would easily wipe the Avatar universe. And I agree with you. He's not down here because I don't think he can overthrow the Fire Nation. He's down here because I don't think there's any way of him overthrowing the Fire Nation without also becoming the greatest villain the Avatar universe has ever seen. There's really no way around that. If you've never played the Middle-earth games, the whole concept of the game is that you play as Talion, who becomes a wraith who then fights against Mordor, against all the orcs and Sauron and all that, and keeps them at bay so he can give the rest of Middle-earth time to prepare for their eventual invasion. Talion has all different kinds of crazy powers. For one, this is a pretty big one, he can't die. No matter how many times you kill him, his body will just be rebuilt and brought back. That's a major one as to why he won't lose to the Fire Nation. But you also have all different other kind of powers like mind control and teleportation. He can copy himself. He can control all the elements. He's a master of stealth. He's an insanely skilled and fast swordsman, able to knock arrows out of the sky and all kinds of stuff. He's powerful. He's a powerful guy. The only real thing that Avatar has over Talion is speed, probably. And the reason why I say probably is because, like I said, Talion can deflect arrows and stuff like that. Cool, whatever. We do have one scene where Zuko watches a lightning bolt strike in slow motion, like he perceives it going and tracks it with his eyes and then like tries to intercept it, and he's going a decent percentage the speed of the lightning bolt. Nothing else in the entire series is ever shown to move like this. But also, a lot of people like to argue that lightning bolts are like a third speed of light or whatever. The scaling community has all kind of different speeds for lightning. It's all bullshit because lightning doesn't have a consistent speed. You cannot measure the speed of any one lightning bolt and then dictate that that's the speed of lightning. The speed of lightning varies drastically depending on all sorts of factors, from moisture in the air to particles in the air to wind direction, all sorts of shit. And while I'm at it, there's also an argument that scalers use that say that electricity and natural lightning are different things. They're not. They're exactly the same in every way. There's literally no difference. They like to say that lightning is somehow more powerful and faster than electricity, which is not true. In fact, on average, electricity is faster than lightning, since most electricity produced by humans goes through a copper wire, which goes almost the speed of light, not quite, because the wire itself does slow it down, and lightning that's passed through the air just can't possibly go that fast because it doesn't have a direct point from one to the other without going through all kinds of shit like the air itself. My point is that when any character reacts to lightning or shoots lightning or whatever, you can't really measure it properly. There's literally no way to do it. In fact, you can make lightning, and there is natural lightning that is made that goes in slow motion, like less than a mile per hour. You can see it slowly travel through the sky. Happens all the time. It's a natural phenomenon. So is this lightning that Zuko is seeing travel through the air going faster than an arrow? Yeah, probably, but it's also possible it's not, because sometimes lightning does go slower than arrows. It's kind of hard to say. I'm still giving the Avatar universe a speed advantage because most lightning is faster than most arrows. I just think overall it's a safe assumption to make, but just know going into the future, if you ever talk about this to anyone else, you're talking about the speed of lightning, just know lightning does not have a set speed. Anyone who says otherwise is lying to you. So overall, I don't think there's any question. I think that Talion in a one-on-one fight could kill anyone in the Avatar universe, and no one in the Avatar universe can kill him, at least not permanently. You kill him, he comes back in a couple of days, and you still have the same problem to deal with. So you'd think based on that Talion would succeed in what he's doing and overthrow the Fire Nation, all that good stuff. The problem is the philosophies of the two universes are completely incompatible. And what I mean by that is that in the Lord of the Rings universe, there is good and there is evil. The moral leanings of the universe are super black and white. How Talion fights against the evil of his universe is he goes out and he mind controls it, dominates its will, and forces it to serve him to fight against other evil characters. He does this for literally hundreds of years, causing a massive civil war in Mordor. Orcs in Lord of the Rings are not people. They are pure evil. You can do literally anything you want to orcs, and it's not considered an evil thing to do. In the Avatar universe, it doesn't work that way. Everything is far more gray. while the cartoon does kind of paint it as a good and evil sometimes, although you could argue that characters like Zuko and Ty Lee and Mei very clearly show that that's not the case, and a lot of the bad guys are actually not really bad. But the comics that take place after the series show it far more clearly that the vast majority of the Fire Nation are actually not bad people. They're pretty decent dudes that have just been manipulated, brainwashed, and conditioned over the last 100 years by an incredibly evil royal family. And because the Avatar universe is far more gray, it has a very different opinion on mind controlling a massive portion of a population. In the Middle-earth series, when Talion goes and mind controls an orc, nobody gives a shit. Everyone is perfectly okay with it because destroying the orcs and overthrowing Sauron is a good, and it doesn't really matter what you do to them. The closest thing they have to something like that in the Avatar universe is bloodbending. And bloodbending is so harshly frowned upon that after the war, it is made illegal across the entire planet. And it's not even genuine mind control. It's just controlling a person's limbs for a few seconds. What Talion is doing is actually rewriting the will of his target. He makes them a totally different person that serves him and doesn't have a choice. There is no way that he can do this in the Avatar universe to tons and tons and tons of Fire Nation soldiers, and the whole world won't look at him as a serious villain. And considering that this is the only way we know that Talion can wage war, there's no getting around it. He will make an enemy of not only the Fire Nation, but also the Earth Kingdom and the Water Tribes. They will all absolutely despise him because he's mind controlling large portions of a population and forcing them to enact his will. That will not be accepted by the world of Avatar. That, on top of the idea that the ring that Talion has is slowly corrupting him and turning him into a permanent wraith that will serve Sauron, and if Sauron's not in this world, I guess it will just serve evil as a concept, means that the world of Avatar really doesn't have a choice here. They have to turn on and try to find a way to kill Talion. Like, best case scenario I can see is that he goes to war with the Fire Nation, he starts controlling people, and other people clearly don't like it, demand that he stops and sees him as a villain, and he willingly decides to stop. Then he decides to go to war just normally without actually turning people and building an army, which he will be able to do, but he won't be able to fight against the Fire Nation nearly fast enough to stop the Earth Kingdom from being wiped out. Because even when he was in Mordor and started a civil war to fight against all the orcs, he was enacting that war for literally hundreds of years without successfully taking out the other side. So if he removes his main ability to build an army, then he's not going to be anywhere near as effective as waging war. He'll be purposely limiting himself. This will eventually lead to the wiping out of the Earth Kingdom, which again, dude only has 3 months to stop them. Not enough time. And then once the Earth Kingdom's wiped out, it'll literally just be the Water Tribe and Talion versus the Fire Nation. That won't last that long. And even if Talion can somehow by himself take out the entire Fire Nation, he will inevitably turn evil after a couple of 100 years anyway, because he has no choice but to do so. I honestly don't see an outcome here that doesn't eventually lead to Talion taking over all of Avatar and becoming the villain of the series. But what I actually think would be the coolest storyline is if Talion does go to war with the Fire Nation and does start controlling people, and then Aang does wake up. Like, he wakes up, but he wakes up slightly later than he otherwise would have. And then him and Talion meet, and then there's like a battle of philosophies where Talion's like, no, I'm gonna wipe out the Fire Nation, and I'm gonna do it by these sort of darker means that isn't dark in my universe, but dark in your universe. And then Aang is gonna be like, no, this isn't cool. You can't control and dominate the wills of other people. That's not all right. And then those two have a fight. And if that ends up happening, I actually think that Aang has a chance of winning. And the reason why I think that Aang has the chance of winning is because, one, I think he's physically more powerful, just if you see that some of the stuff he can do, especially in the comics, but also more importantly, as the Avatar, he has a very, very strong connection with the afterlife and with the spirit world. And I think it actually could be possible that Aang could sever Talion's connection to the afterlife, which is the only reason why he's alive. He's considered a wraith that has a foot in the living world as well as the world of the dead. If Aang could somehow figure out a way of disconnecting that tether and removing him from the afterlife, like get his foot out of it, he actually won't be able to resurrect. I'm curious if Aang can actually find out a way of stripping Talion of his wraith powers, because his powers are directly tied to the Lord of the Rings version of the spirit world. I know it's different because like they actually have magic and there's magic involved, and what happens in Avatar is not magic, but I think there might be enough crossover there that Aang could probably figure something out. If not, we already know that Aang won't kill Talion. Even if he could, he just would refuse to. So, I don't know, it might be a problem. Like I said, I think the most likely scenario is Talion killing the Fire Nation and then turning evil eventually and taking over everything, because that's his inevitable ending in his own fucking series. So I don't really see it going any better if he goes in the Avatar universe. But I do think the most interesting thing here is how his morality would interact with the morality of the Avatar universe. More so than how many people Talion can kill with his cool ghost powers. Next up, we have Alain from Unicorn Overlord. Alain is the prince of a country known as Cornea, and when he was a young little child boy of age 7, his mother, who was the queen and ran the whole country, was betrayed by one of her generals, General Valmore. He started a coup that overthrew the royal family, killed everyone who was there, and basically took over everything. Before Cornea's fall, Queen Elenia gave her son to her most trusted soldier, a man by the name of Joseph. And she asked Joseph to please take her son and flee away and keep him safe, because she knew that Valmore was going to start wiping out any person that might have had a claim to the throne of Cornea. Joseph fled with the child to a small island out in the middle of nowhere and spent the next 10 years teaching him everything he possibly can about warfare, commanding troops, and swordsmanship. After those 10 years, the world of Fevrith, which is the name of the continent that the game takes place on, was completely different. Valmore was no longer called Valmore, he was called Galerius, and he had built a massive spanning empire that had taken over the entire continent, known as the Zenoiran Empire. Alain's nice little island in the middle of nowhere was eventually invaded by Zenoirans, and this kicks off the plot of Alain basically having to overthrow the Zenoiran Empire and kill the dude who dethroned him and his mom. Now, Unicorn Overlord is an RPG, and like most RPGs, it means that the amount of ways that you can build your character are a lot. It's excessive. There's a lot of stuff you can do. It basically means that Alain has a lot of different powers that you can have. Some of them broken as fuck. And it means that in a 1v1 fight between Alain and literally anyone in the Avatar universe would not be difficult depending on how you build the character. So while Alain's physical strength isn't really that impressive, mainly due to the fact that the way the combat is structured, we don't really know what his physical strength is. I mean, it's a turn-based strategy game where you move troops around a battlefield and they hit each other and die. Like, there's no point in the game where Alain slices a house in half or anything like that. It doesn't really get that extreme, but he does have some very broken-ass abilities. There are several items in the game, shields and trinkets and shit, that give you a complete immunity to fire damage. Yeah. Kind of a big deal when you're going up against the Fire Nation. In the game as a whole, that's not really that impressive of an item. It just negates one very basic type of damage, but you still have like 30 other types of damages to worry about. But against the Fire Nation, that's super broken. That means that all of the most powerful people in Avatar that he's gonna come up against to fight aren't going to be able to hurt him at all. Even the most powerful firebenders like Ozai or even Iroh. I know Iroh's a good guy, he's not gonna fight Iroh. But even if he fought Iroh or Ozai or Azula, it's not gonna matter. None of their abilities can do anything to him. They're gonna have to just like punch and kick him, and who gives a fuck? That's just one ability though. He has all kinds of stuff. He has an ability that allows him to acquire True Strike. He can essentially alter probability to make it so that his hit will hit no matter what. And considering that he hits with a sword, that means that if he does that to, say, Ozai or Azula or any of the villains of the entire series, he will kill them because they can't fucking survive being hit by a sword. They don't wield shields. That's instant death for them. But honestly, his long list of ridiculous superpowers and RPG bullshit doesn't really matter. The reason why I put him on this list and the reason why he's so good and why he's going to easily overcome the Avatar universe is because since he was trained for 10 years straight by a master at arms in nothing but warfare and sword fighting and tactics and shit like that, he's gotten very good at tactics. You're talking about a guy who started off in Unicorn Overlord with a small band of soldiers. I'm talking about, like, you can count them on 2 hands. And he was able to, in less than a year, build the largest military fighting force that's ever been assembled and completely wipe out an entire empire, clearing them from 5 different countries. And the reason we know it's less than a year is because he's 17 when the story starts and he's 17 when the story ends. We don't actually have like a clear timeline. We just know it's less than a year. And you'd think the reason why this is because he's the heir of Cornea, but that's actually not true. Yes, while it is true, those first 10 or so soldiers did join him solely because he was the heir to Cornea and they were loyal soldiers. After that point, he actually has to prove himself to every single person that he recruits. Throughout the game, Alain recruits mercenaries, murderers, thieves, bandits, all kinds of different people from all kinds of different lands. He allies and becomes friends with the King of Drakenhold, who Cornea was at war with for decades when his mom was queen, and he is able to convince all of these different groups of people to stop fucking off, team up with him, and help him take back Cornea. It is through his own personality, his own will, his own skill with tactics and diplomacy that allows him to do this. Other than those first couple who join you at the beginning, nobody gives a shit that you're the heir to the throne. You have to convince them through your actions that you are someone worth following. Which means that the main downside that a lot of the characters in this challenge are gonna face, which is that the world doesn't really give a shit about them because they're not the Avatar, is something that he will have to face as well, but he's gonna be a lot better at facing it because he already has. The fact of the matter is that in Unicorn Overlord, he is an unmatched military strategist and swordsman who, through his abilities, was able to topple an evil, magic-wielding empire who had all kinds of crazy abilities like mind control and possession and all kinds of stuff. They at one point released a plague across the land to slaughter a bunch of people. The empire he went up against was not a bitch. No, the Earth Kingdom will not accept him at first, but they absolutely will eventually when they see just how fucking good he is at warfare. I don't think for a second that it will take him that long to get people on his side to start warring with people, because success is attractive. People who want to fight for a cause will fight for someone who continues to win. And Alain in his own series has literally never lost a battle. And you're talking about hundreds upon hundreds of battles. He's one of the best tacticians in video game fiction. So yes, Alain is gonna fucking dominate. If he was able to take over an entire planet in less than a year, I think he can wipe out the Fire Nation in 3 months. I really don't think that's much of a stretch. Oh, and also if you need a little more, I mean, it's kind of overkill at this point, but Avatar characters can kind of perceive lightning, sort of. Characters in Unicorn Overlord can just outright dodge it. Like you can literally just like see it coming and then dodge it. Yeah, they should be faster too. So yeah, he's not losing. Last up, but certainly not least, we have Luke Skywalker from Star Wars. Well, when I say last, but certainly not least, he's better than Liu Kang. Yeah, you thought just because I put this motherfucker at the back of the video that he was the best one. I tricked you. You've been bamboozled. Because the truth is, Luke Skywalker is not that powerful. Let's talk about it. So I've had this conversation quite a few times on this channel. At one point, I had a whole debate about how Palpatine was not that strong, and the people who were defending Palpatine could not, for the life of them, come up with a single feat that put Palpatine at the level that they were saying he was. Solar system, by the way. And that's the same way it works across all of Star Wars. People like to see that Luke Skywalker is super, super powerful, and the main feat that they like to look at is because he grabbed a black hole with the Force and he moved it. He just fucking chucked that shit. It was crazy. Like, you didn't see it. It was awesome. You had to be there. Okay, let's talk about that then. Now I have a question. And this question is solely for the people who believe that Luke Skywalker can grab a black hole with the Force and do shit with it, right? What is a Dovin Basil? I'll give it a second. Don't Google it. Google it's cheating. Just tell me what a Dovin Basil is. If you don't know what a Dovin Basil is, then that means that you don't know what the fuck you're talking about when you say this goddamn black hole bullshit. Because what actually happened is that he did not grab a black hole. He grabbed a Dovin Basil. A Dovin Basil is a fucking piece of technology that is found in a ship that basically has the ability to create small black holes that allow the ship to control gravity fields. More or less, that's kind of what it does. The black holes it creates are microscopic, and these black holes are not nearly as strong as people like to claim they are. What Luke Skywalker actually did was he grabbed the Dovin Basil and he moved it. He like pushed it away. And people were like, oh, this thing had a black hole in it, then he moved a black hole. But do you know how powerful a Dovin Basil is? I don't think so, because in the same book that Luke Skywalker did this at, which by the way exhausted him to such an extent that he passed the fuck out, that same exact black hole with quotations was overtaxed by sucking up a single torpedo from a ship. One torpedo was too much for that black hole to deal with, and it completely shut down the defense systems of the ship. By the way, that's what a Dovin Basil does. It has a couple of different things. It's capable of locking on to different sources of gravity and pulling itself to that place, so it can lock onto certain planets and then pull itself at various speeds to the location that it's trying to go to. But it also works as a defense system where it can actually create gravitational pulls that will suck in certain attacks that are shot towards it. This is one of those times it pulled in a torpedo and it completely fucked up the whole thing. So one torpedo Great, how powerful. Another example of this thing's power is when an X-Wing tried to fly away from the ship and they tried to use the gravitational pull to pull the X-Wing into it, and it failed. The X-Wing was actually able to beat the gravitational pull and get out of it. It wasn't even traveling at like FTL speeds or anything. It was just takeoff speeds. It just overpowered the Dovin Bastille and got out of the gravitational pull. So yeah, people were saying that Luke Skywalker is so goddamn powerful because he moved a singularity or moved a black hole with the Force. They either didn't actually read this feat and see what it actually was, they're just going off of word of mouth, or, also very likely, they're fucking lying. Somewhere in the chain of command with scalers, someone told a lie, and then all of the other scalers just started pushing forward that lie unaware. That's what happened here. And that's usually the case with Star Wars. Like every single feat that people talk about, if you actually read it in the novels and comics, are nowhere near where they say it is. Luke Skywalker, Palpatine, Bane, all these characters, none of them are even close to as powerful as you think they are. I know a bunch of people are going to go down in the comment section and just say a bunch of examples of all these times that people were super, super powerful. Go for it. I've probably covered them. I've covered Nihilus absorbing the life of an entire planet. I've covered Palpatine and his fucking shaking the stars. I've covered all of this in previous videos. All of it is misconstrued. Different details of the actual feat are altered or changed slightly to make it seem stronger than it is, or large aspects of it are completely ignored. So having said that, how will Luke Skywalker do in the Avatar universe? In certain ways, he'll do really, really well. In other ways, he'll do really, really poorly. The ways he'll do really, really well is, well, the Force will help him in quite a few ways, and also his lightsaber. That kind of sounds like everything, but just hold on a second. For one, there's nothing in this universe that can tank or even defend being hit by a lightsaber. It'll go right through their armor like butter. It'll cut right through their flesh. If you get hit with a lightsaber in this universe, you're dead. They can't do anything about it. However, I should note the lightsaber also has a pretty massive weakness, which is basically that it can't be used to help defend against firebenders either. While it's really good against blaster bolts and deflecting that kind of stuff, if a fucking fire blast is shot and you try and block it with a lightsaber, the fire will just wrap around the saber, keep going, and hit you in the face, and boom, Luke will die. So it actually won't be able to be used to defend against attacks. He has to dodge literally everything, which he can do because the Force also gives him precog, so he could see attacks that are coming kind of before they come. It's not as strong as a lot of people say it is, where they say like he could just literally see the future. It's not quite future sight. It's just sort of this kind of enhanced instinct of where things will be and how to avoid damage. And the Force will kind of control his body for him and get him out of the way of situations that he would otherwise die in. But honestly, that's all he's really going to need in a 1v1 fight. The problem is that Luke Skywalker isn't going to be in a 1v1 fight. The truth of the matter is, if he plans on going and fighting against the Fire Nation, he's going to be fighting lots and lots and lots of firebenders. And without him being able to defend with his lightsaber against these different fire attacks, he's actually going to have some serious problems fighting against them. Like, what's he going to do if he's shot from all different angles by a bunch of different fire abilities? Now, I know people have said that Luke Skywalker is FTL because he can, like, outpace and block and dodge fucking fire from blasters. But again, this is another thing that I just don't get how people make this argument. Blasters don't fire lasers or light beams. They fire plasma. We don't know the speed of a plasma shot, but there's no evidence that it's faster than light. While it's impressive that he can deflect blaster bolts, that's not like a legit speed. And is that any more impressive than dodging lightning? They're both sort of unclear about how fast they're going, although at least we have some degree of knowledge that lightning is usually pretty fucking fast. I think it can be pretty easily argued that Avatar characters are faster than Luke Skywalker because they react to lightning. Like, they literally perceive it moving in slow motion. Luke doesn't do that shit. The lightning that Palpatine and other characters shoot out, you're always reacting to the person firing the lightning. You're never reacting to the lightning after it's shot. Zuko actually sees lightning traveling through the air, and he watches it move. You could see him, like, actually following it with his eyes and shit. There's no evidence Luke Skywalker could do that. But honestly, the main issue that he's gonna run into is probably the same issue that everybody else is gonna run into. He just doesn't have the forces or the means to actually go out and defeat Ozai. When he joins the war against the Fire Nation, he's just going to be another dude in the war. His powers will interest them, and his weapons will interest them, and that's cool, but he's not actually going to be like this hailed up master of command. He's not going to be put in charge of anything. He's just going to be a dude who helps fight and assist them, and I don't think he'll be able to push it to such an extent that he can overcome the Fire Nation in 3 months before they wipe out the Earth Kingdom. It's not even 100% guaranteed that he can beat someone like Azula or Ozai in a fight. Yes, if he hits them once, they will die. Will he be able to hit them? That's actually super unclear. Both Ozai and Azula are shown to have better mobility than he does. Azula is hard as fuck to hit. She's very agile. She's shown to be almost as agile as Aang is. And as much as he can kill them in one hit, they can kill him with one hit too, with just a solid fire blast to the face. He's got no way of defending against it. And the last thing that I know people are going to argue is that because he has telekinesis in the Force, he can just grab a dude, hold them in the air so that they can't move, then walk up and hit him with the lightsaber. Everybody makes this argument as like an instant kill on basically anybody you're fighting who has any form of telekinesis, but they specifically like to use it with Star Wars. I think that this is ridiculous and stupid, mainly because no one in the entirety of the Star Wars universe has ever done that. Like, not once. Characters who have the Force fight characters who don't have the Force all the fucking time. They have literally never just grabbed a dude, held him there, and then smacked him with a lightsaber and immediately killed him. Obi-Wan didn't do it against Jango Fett. Darth Vader didn't do it against Boba Fett. Maul never did it against the Mandalorians. Revan never did it against the King of Mandalore. I'm forgetting the dude's name, but he never did it against that dude. And he's one of the best Force users in Star Wars fiction. Top 10 easily. Could Luke Skywalker, if given enough time, team up with the Earth Kingdom and the Water Tribe and all that kind of stuff and fight and overtake the Fire Nation and then eventually go and fight Ozai and possibly win in a fight? Yeah, probably, it's possible. I don't think he's getting instantly obliterated or anything. But in 3 months, no. And even if we remove the 3-month limiter and just give him infinite amount of time to overtake the Fire Nation, it still isn't 100% guaranteed that he will. It's just possible. But that's all for me today. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to like, subscribe, comment, share, and join the membership. Remember to join the membership, you get videos early. And always remember, y'all stay safe out there, you hear?